Okay, here we go. All right. Hello and welcome. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. That's awesome. Very nice to meet all of you for the first time. You're all a new face. Joe, this is only the second time I've ever met Joe. And so, number one, I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for putting together this event for all of us. And thank you for allowing me to come here and spend some time here with all these folks. Sounds to me like what you folks have here that he's put together is really, really a tremendous asset to your life. What he's been able to do with this Get Life coaching system and with his experiences and just listening to the panel of individuals, it sounds to me like we all really do have something in common. I'm not just saying that just to say it. We really do all seem to have something in common. We all seem to have a commonality that we want something more. And we want something greater in our lives. And whatever that might be, hopefully today is another step to accomplishing that goal in your life. And I hope that I can be of some value to you here today, and the rest of the speakers will be of value to you today. And as 2018 approaches, all the New Year's resolutions, right, are going to start to begin to come to fruition. I'll talk a little bit about that, here in a minute. But Joe had put something out on Facebook where he was promoting this Ultimate Success Camp. And I saw it on Facebook, and I actually reached out to him. I did, because I wanted to know what it was about. Because I really didn't know what he did for a living. When I had met him, I had asked him a couple of questions, and this was a little over about a year ago, and I really still didn't have the gist. But once I saw the Ultimate Success Camp, and then I went to his website, and I kind of got an idea as to what he's been able to accomplish and some of the adversities that he's been able to overcome. I just thought that it would, honestly, I thought it would be cool. I thought it would be cool to come out here and talk to everybody here today, and then get a chance to maybe do some coaching individually and have some sideline conversations with everybody if you'd want me to, right? And so Joe had introduced me. Where's my clicker here? So Joe had introduced me, and so I'll start by telling you just a little bit about myself. I do own a financial services business, so I'm not a professional speaker, and I'm actually not a professional trainer. That's not what I get paid to do. What I actually get paid to do on a daily basis, how I support my family, is through the insurance business and financial services. And I found a niche about a decade ago within that sector where I wanted to be a little bit different than the traditional financial services. Kind of like the State Farms of the world. Are we all familiar, right, with the State Farm or Northwestern Mutual or New York Life Company? Mm-hmm. Some of these folks may even be your agents. And so if I was going to transition and get into that industry, I was coming from higher education. And so I had no background whatsoever in insurance. I don't have any family members who worked in insurance. I come from a very modest family, very blue-collar family. My dad worked as a contractor. He still does today, because I think that if he wasn't working, he'd be miserable, to be honest with you. Work keeps him happy. And so I come from a very modest family, and I just watched my dad's work ethic throughout the years. And I saw my sister become very successful out of college and what she did. And I was kind of like the black sheep of the family? Okay? And some of you might get this. I was kind of the black sheep of the family. Let me stop there. Has anybody here ever been the black sheep of your own family? Okay, so I'm not the only one, okay? Wasn't sure, okay? And so when I started to see the success of my sister and my dad working hard, and I went off to do other things where I wanted to have kind of like that cliche, that time freedom lifestyle. I had worked for many, many years in many different jobs, and when I discovered the opportunity to be able to work for myself, but the key was I could work with other people and teach other people, that to me seemed like a pretty cool vehicle on a part-time basis to get into. And what had happened was over the course of these years is I went out and I started meeting with families every single night, on the weekends, during the day. And it allowed me to be able to have conversations other than insurance conversations. I got to meet people, really, really great people, all around the Philadelphia area. And then it expanded into New Jersey, and then Maryland, here in Delaware, all the way straight out to Virginia, straight up to the Pocono Mountains, and anywhere in between. And I just literally would just get in my car and just drive out to people's homes after having a conversation on the telephone. And what was really neat about it was it really did show me that, number one, that there were still good people on this earth. That there were still good people who also had things going on in their life, but they were also looking for some sort of security. And I almost felt like I was able to provide them with that type of security. So it became a lot more, much more than just about making a dollar, right? Does anybody in here, do you work in an industry or do you do something for a living that you do for more so than just a dollar? You do it for the fulfillment of it? Is anybody here? Okay. And so you know what that's like, right? You know what that feeling is. That feeling of, whether something worked out or not, you felt like you made an impact in somebody's life. And so over the years, we've been able to accomplish some really fantastic things in that industry. Along the way, I started having children. I have a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old. This is my family right here. This is my wife, Jennifer, my son, Grant, and my daughter, Aubrey. She's 10 and he's 5. And my wife, she works in the pharmaceutical industry. She works at a pharmacy. And, my daughter's in 5th grade and my son is in kindergarten. And, when we had started to accomplish things in our life from a professional standpoint, it allowed us to do different things. It allowed us to change our zip code. It allowed us to put our kids in different schools. It allowed us to have the time and the freedom to put the kids on the bus, take them off the bus, if I wanted to drop them off at school, just do some different things that in a previous career I was unable to do. I was unable to do it. Excuse me, I had been working about 50 hours a week in higher education, running proprietary schools, and I just kind of got sick and tired of the race. One of the things about me that really used to stress me out was sitting in traffic. I don't know about you, but I never have sat in traffic, especially in Philadelphia, and looked at the car to the right of me or looked at the car to the left of me and saw anybody with a smiling face. I don't know about you, but it's very rare. It's very rare you see the person. Now, on Fridays at 5 o'clock, you usually catch the woman to the right of you and she's lip singing a song, yes? Right? She's having it right because thank God it's Friday. She's on her way back home. She doesn't have to be there till Monday, or he doesn't have to be there till Monday. But that's really just a rare occasion. Just kind of got tired of that. I got tired of just being in that type of an environment and putting myself in that type of environment. I was just so stressed out. And over the last 3 years, we have literally just taken it up to another level. And what does that mean? We went from it just being a one-man show where I was going out and traveling all over the country, meeting with families like I had just explained, to then I just started to expand out. And I was looking for people who were better than I was. I was looking for people maybe who had better communication skills than I did. Maybe people who had better education than me. Maybe somebody who understood the financial services industry better than I did. And we expanded out over the last 3 years to roughly 25 agents in 7 states. And by all accounts, if you look at it from a franchising aspect, that's a tremendous amount of growth very quickly. And we continue to grow today. As a matter of fact, I had just barely made it here today. My flights had been delayed twice last night, and I had just spent the last 48 hours in Charlotte, North Carolina, with several hundred insurance professionals, teaching them about different techniques, how they could scale their business, how they could grow themselves within our industry, and just kind of going through all the different fundamentals that would allow them to take their business to the next level. Now, mind you, again, I'm not a speaker trainer. I don't do what Joe does in the Get Life coaching aspect. Quite frankly, all I've really been talking about over the years is financial services. And so, believe it or not, this is actually new to me, what I'm doing here with you here today. And so, having gone from being in an environment the last 48 hours that I was comfortable in to being here, quite frankly, I'm out of my comfort zone. And so there was a couple things that I had thought about when I talked to Joe about what I wanted to really talk to you folks about here today. And one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about fear and our self-talk. And by a show of hands, does anybody here ever talk to themselves? Great, so we're all in the same boat. We all talk to ourselves. Now, I'm sure that we all have different conversations. Now, how many of you, based on your self-talk, would like to be able to elevate yourselves and get out of maybe sometimes that negative self-talk? How many of you would like to just be able to eliminate that talk from your mind? Yes? Yes. Great. And so thank you. That's what I'm going to do for you here today, if that's okay. Now, it wasn't always like this. It wasn't always the beautiful family with the great business and the agents in the offices all over the place and being able to have the time freedom. It wasn't always like that. See, the reason I'm an Eagles fan is because I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia.
Nice.
Okay? And where I grew up in Philadelphia, a lot of my surrounding people that we surround ourselves with, even as young children, they really had no direction. And quite frankly, my parents, by no fault of their own, they tried to give me direction, but I just wasn't having it. I was that kid. I'll give you just a very Cliff Notes version. It took me 3 middle schools just to get to high school. Okay? Several buses, several SEPTA trips just to get to a school that had barbed wire wrapped around the fence. And once you got there, you literally had to walk in a single file line to go from building to building and to go from classroom to classroom. And if you got out of line, back then, it was okay for the teacher to crack you because that's why your parents sent you there, literally. And so I found out very quickly, I kind of was like, man, I don't know if I really belong here, but how did I get here? And thinking like that as a teenager, you would think maybe would change. But it didn't change me. I continued to go along this path. Made it to high school, went to a public high school, and understood that if I wanted to play athletics, I had to have a C average. So I was able to maintain a C average so I could play athletics, came out of high school, and then got a factory job working third shift at a company behind, remember the old Nabisco building over on the boulevard that used to make the cookies? I don't know if anybody remembers that, the smell of the cookies driving down the boulevard. The building's no longer there, and they're no longer making cookies. But there was a factory right behind there. And I was working third shift, had a hairnet and eye goggles and earplugs, and I remember the milk cartons coming off, and my job is very simple. All I had to do was just take the milk cartons, stack them onto a pallet, and when the pallet got full, jack it up, move the pallet over, and I did that. And every morning at 7 a.m. when my shift was about to end, my manager would give me a tap on the shoulder and say, Brett, forced overtime. So I'd literally go in at 11 p.m. the night before, and I'd work till 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, as a 18, 19-year-old kid when I was doing this, I had all the stamina. So working and being on my feet wasn't the issue. The issue was having all this time to think, because you couldn't hear the person to the right of you, and you couldn't hear the person to the left of you. So literally, you would be on your feet for hours at a time, and who would you be talking to? Yourself. And can you imagine those conversations? Because the only thing that you're staring at is milk cartons all day. And so I literally one night it just occurred to me. I said, Brett, if you don't change what you're doing, you are going to be on a path to destruction. Now you would think, well, why would you be on a path to destruction? No, see, after work, I like to party. See, after work, I was never really big into drug use, but I used to really like to drink. And I couldn't just drink to hang out and socialize. No, me and my buddies, we used to like to drink to see how messed up we could really get. And I started to see a pattern. Yes? A pattern of destruction. Working in a job I didn't like. having self-talk that was not telling me the right things that I wanted to hear, going out and then drinking in my mind was the right way to release some of my negative thoughts. And so what I did is I enrolled in a community college, and then that took me to a 4-year college. After a 4-year college, fast forward, I was able to travel around the country, and things started to change. I started to understand that there were other things other than just Philadelphia out there, because I had only ever been to the Jersey Shore. But when I made it to California, when I made it out to Utah and Las Vegas and New York City and West Virginia and all these different places, I finally started to, some say, well, Brett, you just started to mature. No. I really started to change the way I was thinking. But it wasn't until I found entrepreneurship that I totally had a transformation. I had a transformation, and all of a sudden, things started to happen to me in my life. Somebody earlier spoke about the universe drawing things to you. I started to understand human psychology. I started to understand how the universe and energy bounces back and forth. And then that led me to entrepreneurship, which then honestly has led me here today. And so one of the things that I'd like to do is, before I move on, so we just did a Spartan race. So I told you that about 6 weeks ago, I went blind in my right eye. And so literally, if I close this eye right here, you are all one big